Welcome to Checkmate in 2028, the strategic guide to winning the game in November and beyond. This is about understanding the game that we are playing in order to win going forward. And I've been in strategic marketing for about 35 years. I use it for healthcare B2B and to help women rising in age. I use my 3D strategic approach with the core components being define, design, and deploy. I've always been strategic, but I didn't really know it until I was in fifth grade. And that's when my teacher forced us all to play chess, to learn and play chess. And initially, I wasn't interested at all. I thought it was boring. I thought it was an old person's game. My dad used to play it, and I thought he was just, that's for somebody else. But once I learned the rules of the game and how and I absolutely excelled. Once the class all learned the rules, the teacher started a tournament. 30 kids, two brackets, and we played every day for 2 weeks or so until there were only two, me and Carlos. I had easily beaten so many players. I was so confident, but I wasn't ready for Carlos. The Art of War says the five essential rules of victory. One of them is he will win who prepared himself and waits to take the enemy unprepared. I was not prepared. I never watched him play. I didn't know how he moved. So once we started and he started taking down my pieces, I panicked and I started to lose the vision of the board. I went from being an offensive player to a defensive player, and my judgment started to get really clouded. I stopped seeing the entire board and what I had to do next. So I gave a good fight, but I lost. And I learned something that day that I still carry with me 50 odd years later, fifth grade, 11 years old. But what I learned is that in chess, strategy beats emotion every time. I also learned that it's true in life in general. I even find that, especially in politics, that strategy is super important. So over the years, just real quick, I used to listen to this radio station, and the DJ or the announcer was Joe Madison. He was the Black Eagle on Urban View. I don't know if any of you have listened to him. He was amazing and he was real and he was smart, and folks would come onto his show ranting and raving and talking all about injustices. They were all emotion, and he would just stop them. And he would say two things, actually. The first was, I don't want you to get mad. I want you to tell me what you've done and what you're going to do. The second thing he would say is that whatever you're going to do, make sure you can put it where the goats could eat it. So this way it's not too overly complex and that everyone understands. So for me, looking for and implementing a strategy is my way of taking action and doing something. But the question is, what strategy should we take and how can I keep it where the goats can eat it? Before I go further, let's be honest. It's easy to say that politics, keep emotion out of politics, but politics feels very personal. And it's easy to be mad when you see what's going on because the stakes are real. Stuff is happening every day and it's absolutely crazy. Now rights are being chipped away. They're actually openly questioning if women should retain the right to vote. Laws we want to be put in place are not getting to the floor to be voted on. Accomplishments of Black and Brown people are constantly being challenged. We're all struggling to access fair loans and businesses and for houses and businesses. And meanwhile, the rich and the ultra rich are getting unprecedented benefits. And then there's blatant corruption that's happening in the White House. And really, it's mind blowing and it makes you feel bad. But I would like to submit that we can't address any of these issues that's causing us pain unless we understand that we are also playing a game and that we need to understand the rules of the game and know how we have power or when we have power and when we don't. And we have to understand the strategic steps forward. So I'm going to talk a lot about strategy. So I thought I would just level set and make sure that I tell you what strategy means to me with regards to this conversation. So with strategy, I see it as the North Star, right? It's the point that guides us. It helps us stay on track so we don't lose our way. It helps us answer the big questions about how and why we're doing something. And it gives us clarity on the direction. It's kind of like a flashlight that gives us clarity on the direction. And strategy is different from a plan. A plan is more checklist. It's like once you have your big strategy, then you can get into the checklist. Right now, we're going to talk strategy and understanding the game. And hopefully, the next event, we'll get down into the action plan. So let's get back to the game of politics. And it's actually a unique game of chess. Now, when I played with Carlos all those years ago, we both had 16 pieces in front of us. When we faced each other on the playing field, on the board, we were even, right? We each had two rooks, two knights, two bishops, one king, one queen, 8 pawns, always. But in the game of political chess, the board looks a little different. And understanding those differences and the rules puts you at an advantage. And if you don't know, you're at a disadvantage. And I would say that we've been playing without a clear understanding of the rules for some time. Therefore, we tend to feel out of control. But that feeling is because we don't understand our role and who places the pieces on the board and who moves them and why. So we need to know who the players are. We need to know the pieces. We need to understand who has the power and how that power is given. So I need you to stay with me here a little bit. It gets a little technical, but not really, but it makes sense. And as Joe Madison would say, I think we'll understand it and we'll keep it at a level we can all get it. So let's start with the players. There are only two players ever. No matter how many times you play the game, there will only be two players facing each other. I know you're going to think of, oh, yeah, they're third parties and so on. But really, when you think of Congress and the House and so on, there's really only two players. So unlike though the regular game of chess, when each opponent has 16 pieces, this game, the players start with less, and only one of the players have a true advantage. So our strategy must be to include knowing which player offers us the best chance based on history and focus and support the needs and the goals of us. So we choose the player and then we must give them the pieces. So in this lopsided game of chess, each player only actually has 12 pieces. And only one of them will have the advantage of all 4 pieces for the most part. Although there's opportunity for both players to get 2 pieces each, and I'll explain in a minute. So when you look at the political board, you'll see that the pieces that are guaranteed are 8 pawns, 1 king, 1 rook, 1 bishop, and a knight. And the game of politics, these particular pieces have function. The king, which in our game is democracy. That's what we're protecting on this game board. The bishop is the House of Representatives, which hold elections every 2 years to keep their seats. The knights represents the judiciary and the courts, and the rook represents the Senate. They hold their seats for 6 years before they have to fight to keep them. This is the question. And ultimately, this is the basis of our strategy. Only one player gets to have the advantage to win. And that advantage means something tangible to us. But who gets the advantage and how do they get it? We do. We decide which player gets all 4 pieces with our vote. Our strategy has to be that we're ensuring the right player, and I submit that's the Democratic Party right now, gets the advantage. These 4 additional players or pieces are either divided by the 2, but for the most part, it usually goes to one party. And this has to be our North Star. We, with our vote, have to give our players the control of the House, the control of the Senate, the presidency, and then that de facto gives us the DOJ. Our vote makes this happen, which puts the pieces in front of the right players. And then now they have the power to move those pieces. That's our power. That's our role in the game. But let's be honest, we kind of failed in 2024. Melvin talked about that we're still traumatized, and we are because we didn't play like we had a strategy. We didn't remember the rules. We led by emotion. We acted as if we didn't know the player on the other side of the board. We allowed ourselves to become one issue voters. Her laugh, Gaza, her agenda, not black enough. We wanted the VP to suddenly have power and control that the president has. She didn't talk to Joe Rogan, whatever it was. We focused on one thing and we didn't think about the long tail effects, like healthcare related to our community. We didn't think about the poor. We didn't think about care about a free education. We didn't think about securing our rights. Many sat home, we were fractured, and we forgot our strategy. And now we're paying the price. We gave all the levers of power to the other player, and now we complain that the player without the four extra pieces, we want them to do something. We're demanding that the player without the presidency, Speaker of the House, Senate, leading Senate, and DOJ do the impossible. The Art of War states the following: if equally matched, we can offer battle. If slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy. If quite unequal in every way, we can flee. So our inaction and inability to be strategic gave the other player the ultimate advantage. And I will say that they are playing the heck out of the game board right now. So this is a lesson. We are learning it the hard way. No strategy equals real painful consequences. And we must understand our role in the game. And when we don't give our team the additional pieces, we always lose. Every time our players face off and they are not, and they don't have what they need to represent us, we lose. Every match we don't participate in will harm us. And we can't handicap our player and expect them to win. So we have challenges like unchecked executive power, tax cuts for the rich, a trillion cut from Medicaid, dismantling of DEI, elimination of the ACA tax credits, attack on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then pushing the SAVE Act down our throats. So, it's like if you're playing a basketball game, right? And one side of the basketball court has a full complement of players, and the other side has three players. And one of those players are Michael Jordan in his prime. The matchup is still lopsided, and it will be almost impossible for the three-sided player to win. So again, our power is our vote and our role in the game. So our power is to give the players the strategic advantage. Pieces allow them to access the levers of power. So we're in a very bad place right now. Is there hope? The answer is yes, absolutely. There's a new game of chess being played and queuing up all the time. And the question is, what will we do? How will we do our part? Our vote decides, the hope lies in our hands, and the players can only use the pieces we give them. So again, I say there's hope. Our next immediate steps are clear. In 2026, there are two pieces we can move from the Republican control to the Democratic control. We can move the rook and the bishop, right? We can move the Senate and the House if we come out in force. Now, this won't give us or our player all the power needed to make change, but it will help us put checks on the executive power. It will help us bring bills to the floor. It will allow us to have more control as to where the money is going, and we'll have more of a say in the judiciary process, like who are the judges that are being confirmed. So the next immediate thing is on the chessboard is there are chess games being played in every state. So the question is, do you know what's happening in your state? Do you have a plan to participate? In Georgia, for example, our primaries are coming up on May 19th to be exact. My job is to know who's on the ballot. My job is to know when early voting starts, which actually is tomorrow. And my job is to let as many people know and to get them excited and ignited and ready to vote. And then, of course, in 2028, we can take the queen back, which gives us, of course, the DOJ. So our power is placement. And that's how we have to remember it. We have to think of our power as placement of pieces on the board. And our power is ensuring that those players, our player that we're choosing, and I choose the Democrats have enough players so this way they can do our bidding. So how do we win, right? But what do we do when we win? Okay, so we should always be looking ahead to the next game and the next board that's being set up. Midterms, local elections, presidential, special elections, etc. We must stay focused on our power, which is voting, and do it every single time. That's our job in the process. We can't just participate every 4 years. I was in an Uber in Florida not long ago, and the Uber driver was just talking politics. And I was like, oh God, I just want to get to my place. And I really wasn't paying attention until he started to say, oh, I'm not, voting doesn't matter. Do you know about the Electoral College? And then my head went up. And I was like, listen, did you vote in your local elections? I said, do you go to your town halls? I said, how many phone calls have you made? Well, it became very clear to me that he had limited knowledge of the game and his role. So that's thinking ahead. Now we have to also stay focused to ensure that once we get our pieces in front of the right players, we have to stay connected. Just like I was telling the Uber driver, we have to know who the folks are that are in our Democratic Party. We have to make sure we're making phone calls. We have to go to town halls. We have to make sure that we are staying connected, that once we vote, we just can't put our hands up and say, well, hopefully they're going to get it right. Our voice is how we make sure they get it right. And then finally, we have to make the right moves. I clearly remember when Obama was president, and I believe we failed to give him the support he needed. Obama and the Democrats had the majority of the House and the Senate for 2 years of his 8-year term. And one of the things I always think about that every good game of chess with equally skilled players takes time, thinking ahead, have done, and the Democrats could if we gave them 8 years of those pieces. Instead, we threw our hands up and we made the wrong moves. And we let the Tea Party take over the House in 2010. And in his final 2 years, they had the House and the Senate. And so all he could do was kind of play defense. So my ask is that we look at the political game and we look at the political process as a game, and that we learn how to master it. Again, vote in all the elections. I've been saying that over and over, but that's key, not just presidential, but at the local level. We have to become warriors of the local level. We need to be getting the school board in. Imagine if we had turned up to all of our school board elections. They wouldn't be taking books out of schools like from Maya Angelou and all these great authors. We have to allow ourselves not to get frustrated and fold our arms and become single issue voters and say that both sides are the same, because then we're giving away our greatest power. So remember that the game is slow and it's methodical. It's made up of small moves and wins and losses. That's how chess is played. And we have to take the role of placing the pieces on the board extremely serious. And we have to stay engaged and stay connected. And then remove emotion and think long term. Yes, again, 2026 elections won't give us the queen, the presidency, but it does give us the rook and the bishop. And we have to do all we can to take those two pieces and give it to our player. So this way they could start making moves for us. And remember, if we don't win the game, there's always another game. And the question is, will we sit back or will we step up? So, in closing, I'll say again that strategy beats emotion every time. So, let's play the game with a winning attitude and a keen eye on strategy. And finally, I'd like to share 5 essentials for victory from the art of war. Okay, number 1, he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout the ranks. He will win who prepared himself and waits and takes the enemy unprepared. And he will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. So if we think of the rules of the political game and how we need to play this lopsided game of chess, and we work strategically and think long term for our goals, I believe we will surely have checkmate in 2028. And now I'll pass it over to Julie. She has some important words to share.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to focus on preparing your souls for the long game. We're going to go from reaction to cultivation. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. We are living in a moment where everything feels loud: anger, fear, fatigue, uncertainty, systems broken, promises unkept, loss after loss. And yes, these feelings are real. But feelings alone do not build a future. A garden doesn't respond to emotion, it responds to care. Storms of anger come fast and make noise, but storms don't feed communities. If all we do is react, nothing takes root. Emotion may tell us the season has changed, but diligence is what does the work. So let me ask you, what garden are you standing in presently? Seeds are our people, our ideas. Soil is education, trust, shared understanding. Seasons are timing, election cycles, moments when doors open or close. But weeds are division, misinformation, burnout that steals our strength. But if we stay the course, the harvest comes. Harvest is protection, representation, progress we can touch. No garden survives when everyone plants alone. When the land is forgotten between seasons, that's how communities lose power. And hear this clearly: coordination and doing things collectively does not erase anyone's individuality, it protects it. Power is not built in panic, it is built year round. In meetings no one posts about, in conversations without cameras, in showing up before it feels urgent, and staying long after it feels boring. In our collective garden, if we don't plant early, there will be nothing to gather later. The future we want will not arrive on anger alone. It comes through planting, patience, protection, and persistence. Strong communities do not just react, they cultivate. And cultivation is the work of the diligent. So I asked you one question. What are you cultivating as we move forward?
Excellent.
That's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.